was really going back to your question. It was really about trying to make it more interactive. Like I don't know how many times I did the salad simulation one where you give them a fruit or a vegetable. And I was
Know
just like,
exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
we need to start there. And I think one year I did we're sending 5 people to the moon and you're a celebrity and you have to convince us why you should be one of the 5 people to the moon. Um, but I really just wanted to like do a lot of things that simulated the structure.
Welcome to episode 5 of MUN Deep Dive. Thank you for joining us today from Colombia, Ray. Can you please introduce yourself to us?
All right, my name is Rae Briard. I'm Canadian. I got involved in the international MUN circuit in South Korea when I worked at Branksome Hall Asia, and I was the MUN leader there for 6 years. And I've moved since then to Colombia, where I work at Colegio Bolivar. And I'm not the lead MUN teacher at the school because it's taught by a specific, like as a class, and I am a social studies psychology teacher. But I have assisted in a few conferences here.
Yeah, so you have that unique background of, you know, just being on the other side of the world, right? I feel like with a lot of teachers, they kind of go around the circuit in the similar areas, right? But you went all the way Korea to Colombia, and I know off air we've spoken a bit about the comparisons. So I think that's where we'll jump right into. What is the difference with the MUN scene in East Asia? Where, if I'm not mistaken, you weren't just in Korea when it came to conferences, though, right? You guys traveled to Japan, maybe China, or maybe not because of COVID and stuff.
Yeah, not China.
Okay, not China, but you've been to Japan.
I took students to Hong Kong. I did one up in Seoul one year. I went to Taipei in my last year in Korea, as well as Thailand. And I
Okay.
would say that the big thing in Asia was most of them were MUN style rules.
Hmm.
Pretty much everywhere except for the one you hosted on Jeju Island,
Yeah.
which
Which
was an
was,
interesting to teach the students because we were always getting ready predominantly for conferences at like that you were hosting. So
yeah.
we were doing HMUA. No, oh, did I get that acronym wrong? Oh
UNA
my goodness.
USA. UNA USA. Yeah.
UNA USA. And then we were going to all these other conferences that were like the complete reverse. And so I really had to think carefully about preparation with the students and the time that I had to try and really diversify. But the kids that I took to both found that working on like opening speeches and like the position paper for like your conferences versus working on the resolutions for the MUN conferences, they found that they were almost like the opposite like kind of structure and model, and that it really advanced their understanding of the UN as a whole, having to do both styles. And so a lot of them told me that in hindsight, they liked both.
And now you're in South America. So is my understanding that most of the Latin America sort of conferences run off of UNA USA?
Like yes and no. And this is one where like I have had some exposure, but not as much as I would like to be able to answer this question. We went and I was the token female chaperone to Panama, which was hosted by Harvard. So it was the one of the ones that like moved, but then they did it in Panama 2 years in a row. And I think they're currently planning for their third year in a row in Panama. They just had the meeting this week with like the parents at our school to kind of figure out what where parents' mindsets are at for that kind of conference. And my first year, I didn't know the kids because they were all high school only, and I had come in and was teaching grade 8. And so we were going to the conference, and they had UNA USA rules, and all of the kids were commenting on this is really weird. I don't understand how this debate structure works. And I'm there being like, what do you mean? Like this is a very dominant system.
Hmm.
And so that's kind of an eye opener for me in I guess Colombia has Colombia rules for a lot of conferences,
Yeah,
and they're a bit more cutthroat.
that's interesting. I wasn't
Mm.
aware of, yeah, sort of these like mixed styles. I think the big thing though is for conferences to convey that early. And the thing is the kids adjust, right? I mean, we both have seen students within hours adjusting. And it's sometimes a little embarrassing when you make mistakes, but ultimately it seems like the skill sets are similar, but maybe that's a good connection to the next point. So now that you've kind of seen the Thyman versus UNA USA Korea circuit versus Latin America circuit, do you see a big difference with what makes a best delegate?
That's a good question. And I don't think so. I think universally I've noticed that the students who get nominated for best delegate are always very, very vocal. They tend to dominate a lot of the debate, a lot of the motions, a lot of the like unmods are also kind of like there at the lead of certain conversations. Um, I do think tone of voice can make a bit of a difference too. Like if they come off as too direct or too mean,
Mm,
that can be a bit alienating for some of the chairs. I think I have noticed,
mm,
but generally it is that kind of all encompassing presence, and like it doesn't have to be a dominant country.
mm,
I've seen students who represent smaller countries walk away with best delegate because they have been able to be that vocal persona in the room. Although sometimes it's easier if you are a bigger country. And I'd say often you have like the USA rep like delegate or Russia or the UK, like usually in like that top five.
mm.
And I know a lot of supervisors will put stronger students in those roles. But in general, I'd say I've I've seen winners that are smaller countries fighting for more niche wants that still make it out.
So what's interesting is you and I have not seen the African circuit, European circuit, but my current team, I didn't travel with them, but so they went to Poland and I think it was Italy was the other one. And so I only hear vicariously, but I do know a lot of European conferences don't have awards. That kind of it's more diplomacy first. So do you feel like kind of that competitive sports type of MUN? Do you feel that is very much alive in Latin America and Korea, or do you think it's even more intense in one place than the other?
It's definitely very alive here. I've gone to one conference that did not have awards, and that was in Taipei, and it was a middle school conference. So the whole point was getting these kids exposed, having like younger kind of chairing staff. And I did really like it for like my new students to MUN. A
Mm,
lot of the students who though I've met since like or who I took to Thailand and who are going to this Panama Harvard one, they're doing it for the resume building and like they are wanting to walk away with an award. They're wanting to have something for university applications.
mm,
And I I think you're unless you like completely ban that, I don't think there's a way to really get away from that because it is a huge motivating factor. And I think that's how sometimes students can get their parents to buy into why are you paying to send me to this conference,
mm,
especially out of country conferences, of being like, well, if I can win this award, if I can have this opportunity, and that I think is a push. And I even just this week, so again, I teach grade 8 social right now, and then I have an AP psychology class. And so we just had the first week of school, and a bunch of the kids are in the MUN class as their elective choice. And one of the students was talking about being in the class, not sure if he wants to switch out of the class. And he's like, but I want to go on this trip. And I look at this
Yeah.
kid and I've only known him for like 24, 48 hours at this point. And I'm like, you don't strike me as the kind of kid who enjoys research
Mm,
or debate. And he was just like, but I want to go on a trip. I want to be with my friends in a hotel room. I want to be like outside of school. And I'm like, you realize an MUN trip, you are like all day at the conference venue. And then you have like the evening, maybe 5 p.m.
mm,
to 9, 10 p.m., depending on the conference. Like that's usually the window.
mm.
And often a lot of students are preparing for the next day of the
Yeah.
conference. And then you're also eating dinner. And maybe if it's convenient for your location, you're doing some kind of social activity. Like in Taipei, we went to the night market. In Bangkok, we went to a mall because it was within walking distance of our hotel. But a lot of the students were like, can we go back? We have to get ready for tomorrow. We have to like do a little bit more research. And so I looked at this grade 8 student and I'm just like, that's not your vibe. I think you should really think about your life choices for what would actually make you happy and what you would want to do with your elective. And
Yeah.
so,
That's interesting that two juxtapositions, right? If you got the kid who's going on the trip just to have fun, it's like, please study more. But then you got the kid who's like, I said, overly focused. And it's like, we're in a foreign country. Let's
yeah,
actually have a cultural exchange. And that is actually something I definitely emphasize too in my programs, is I say, let's actually have fun. Like we're not like Goldman Sachs, like finance bros, you know what I mean? Like flying in, doing business, then flying out, which some of these teams do. And I just think it's such a waste. They're 15, 16.
I
It's
did that
like,
once.
yeah. Mm,
I did that once. We were at the same conference. It was in Japan,
mm,
2019, so right before the world crashed and burned. And we were what the one like down like you go through Tokyo and it was out like in that southern bit. And it was another conference that was like hosted by a university from California. I don't remember exactly which university.
yeah.
And at the time, I did not think my principal would allow us to have an extra day. And
Mm,
so we flew in and flew out super close to the conference. And I just remember getting back to Korea and being like, I hated that. Like I hated that for the kids who were grade 7, grade 8. I think I had maybe a grade 9 or 2. Like it was a small group that I had that trip. And I was just like, they didn't really get to do anything in country other than the conference. And I just remember being like, I never want to do this again. Like there always needs to be a good, like solid afternoon or morning where we can just do something fun
yep,
and enjoy where we are.
exactly. And it's just that understanding too of like the value of that, right? And it's just like, I think you see it most when kids are graduating or after graduation, right? You talk to them and you say, what do you remember, right, about those XYZ trips? And they'll remember that extra 3 hours. So I agree with you. I think that's the blueprint for any MUN team should be. It's not just MUN, right? It's to have that fun. So the last question I have for you is it actually connects to what you mentioned. There was this moment where I think there's a general understanding in the MEN community that the stronger countries, as in like places to have conferences, are Canada, US, India, China, Korea. And
Mhm.
we went to a conference in Thailand. And it was okay conference. It's called MUN. I think it's one of the oldest conference, right? The country has to
I went.
host. There was probably 30, was it 35 schools, I think.
When I
And
went, it was
it might have been more. It might have been like 50 schools. And in the 50 schools, there were three schools that were all neighbors from each other. St. Johnsbury Academy in Jeju, Branksome Hall Asia, also in Jeju, and Korea International School in Jeju. And what I did
mm,
is, as you know me, I like the details. So I kept data of every school, which awards they won, everything. So I kept
mm,
all the data in, and then I, then I put all the data together. And my findings was that essentially, if you had to kind of say what schools, had the best performances, it was something along the lines of the three Korean schools. The only three schools from Korea were in that top five, alongside sort of the big names in Thailand would be ISB. I don't know if NIST was there, but there was one school I didn't know as much, and to their credit, it was them. So it's those three schools in Thailand and those three schools in Korea. But anyways, it's getting to the question to you is Branksome Hall has only been around for about 12 years, right? And at least year three, four, five, I don't think you guys were sending kids to conferences that frequently. And if you were, maybe not in big teams. But I
Mm.
felt like it was an arrival. It was a true arrival of like, oh man, these Jeju teams are no joke. And how did you get the team there? Because you were part of that.
But I have to ask, the year you went to MUN, was that the year after I left?
It was, oh wait, maybe is this the year you left? It might have been actually the year after you left. Uh,
Yeah, because I know they went again
yeah.
because I saw on the school's social media,
Hmm.
uh, and the trip organizer like was still doing it, and so but I did not know how many awards they won. Like I remember when we went and I was like there, it was like my last year in Korea.
Hmm.
Like we got a number of awards. Like I think I had a grade 9 student get like either outstanding chair or best chair. Like I remember just like she was floored, I was floored. I'm like, you're a grade 9 student and you just came and you like cleaned up. But we only had like 10 kids, 9 kids. Like it was a small delegation.
Yeah, I think you
Uh
guys brought a bigger course. This is my sorry, lack of research, but it's a year after. But I would still say you had a great deal, right, with building up that team, with many superstars. And actually they won a chair award too, which is very hard to get because there's only four chair awards, I think, in total. And yeah, I mean, so I think the team showed up. And my question to you would be, a problem I always have is like I want things to be fun. And actually people get kind of surprised because sort of the MUN version of Harris is very much like sports. It's like
drill
bring in
sergeant.
competition, like look at the awards, but sort of me as the educator is far more like let's chill out, guys. Like let's have fun, let's enjoy life. And I often have a difficulty finding that balance. So like how did you do that at your school where the kids still they love the program, they're coming back every year, yet the competition kept going up and up. So how do you
Yeah.
build programs like that?
Honestly, this coming school year, one of my lead students is in grade 12 there. And so it'll be once she's gone, that will be the real test of whether or not the foundation is there for because I know once like my last year there, she was in grade 9 and like we hosted a conference and like I felt like I was abandoning them, like which was so hard because I was like, it's time for me to move on. And she just really took that leadership on herself, I'm pretty sure. And it will be the test of time. But so I was the MUN leader there for I was there for 8 years, but I was the MUN leader for 6.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
when I took it over in August of 2017, like another teacher, I don't think he was there that year. Like I think he had moved on. That's why I got it. And the
Mm.
students had come to me and they're like, well, you're also like a social studies teacher. Can you be the MUN like supervisor? But don't worry, it's fully student led. You don't need to do anything. We just need to use your room. And this was my first year teaching in the MYP program.
Mm.
So I was, doing a huge learning curve in general. And I remember our first week of after school activities was probably like the first week of September, and they had like an info session-ish thing. And it was these grade 11, grade 12 students, and they stood up at the front and they gave the most boring lecture I have ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
And
I
like
mean,
I
exactly.
could just see the glazing over of eyes. And I was like, I have to take over this. Like I I don't have any like big personal MUN experience. Like I knew what it was in high school and I supported like the conference that was hosted at my school because I liked the teacher who ran it. I
Mm.
had a lot of respect for him. But I have no success stories of going to a conference and doing debate, like none. But I was like, I know how this should be worked, and I could see how it should be scaffolded. Because they came in and they're like, let's talk rules of procedure, day one. And I was like, no, no, we cannot do this. Like,
So you're
we
saying
got,
teaching how to teach, right?
yeah,
I mean, I didn't
yeah.
mean to interrupt you there, but I just feel so strongly about that too, is that I have seen both ends of that, right? Where you get, because 11th, 12th graders, they don't know any better sometimes. They'll go up and they'll say, for the next 30 minutes, we're going to talk about rules of procedure, right? And you think back to yourself as like as a teacher in your 20s or even like in, teaching school, and you go like, okay, where's the interaction? Right? Like, well, how do you get and sorry, I didn't mean to hijack it, but
No, no, no. I was just thinking like it I could see where they were coming from. They're like, we want you to understand this complicated process. We want to make it uncomplicated so that you can connect to it. But I was like, okay, we can't do this. And I don't even remember exactly how I got through that first year of MUN. Like my goal at the time really was to get as many kids as possible to these conferences to see if they liked the vibe.
mhm.
And even when like that year I took students to Hong Kong in January. So I was like, I wanted to get a trip up and running because I knew that would be a pull. Once trips were kind of a thing, I knew that more people would like stick it out if they were like, ooh, I can go somewhere.
Yeah.
And so it was really like kind of just get you exposed to it, see if you like it. And I'd go into every conference and the kids would be like nervous. And I'd be like, guys, if this conference sucks, we're never coming back. So if you don't like it, you tell me. Like, and like the first like 3 or 4 conferences we went to, aside from the ones that were on the island, because those were like the local ones. I'm like, well, we live here. We're going to these ones. But for like international ones or even like up to Seoul, I was just like, if we don't like it, we don't come back.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to take that pressure off. And like we didn't win anything.
Mm,
Like 2017, 2018, nothing.
mm,
2018, 2019, nothing. Like it was just get the kids in the door. And I can't remember what year I signed up and took some of the courses from Best Delegate.
mm.
Uh, I feel like it would have been during the pandemic because I have vague memories of doing them from my like apartment in Jeju, and I'm like that wouldn't have been in so it might have been 2020,
Mm,
but I took a couple of those courses on just like especially the leadership of like how to get kids more into like the chair role because I
mhm.
had a couple students like especially that 2017 2018 year like I had a student start with me that year and carry through and graduate. And I'm like trying very hard not to accidentally name drop students. So it was really going back to your question, it was really about trying to make it more interactive. Like I don't know how many times I did the salad simulation one where you give them a fruit or a vegetable. And I was just
Know
like,
exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
we need to start there. And I think one year I did, we're sending 5 people to the moon, and you're a celebrity, and you have to convince us why you should be one of the 5 people to the moon.
Mm,
Um, but I really just wanted to like do a lot of things that simulated the structure. And like the biggest thing was probably for my first at least 3, 4 years of doing MUN, even like through the pandemic when we did all that online stuff, is I never had time to talk resolutions before conference.
mm.
Never.
Yeah.
Because you'd always tell the kids, read the guide at home, start doing some research, and they never would. And so then the time that I had scheduled to do resolution writing would always like crash into each other. And I'm like, okay, morning of the conference, you're going to go in there, find someone who knows how to write a resolution and become best friends. Like
Mm.
that was like what I said for so many conferences because I was too soft on them probably. And I was like, you didn't finish reading your guide, read it now. It's fine. Like,
So if I'm trying to understand what you're saying, I mean, it's this complex mixture of several things you said, right? I think you said one is basically building that relationship first, right? A lot of teachers, when it comes to MUN, they get too caught up and the ROPs and the position papers and the rezos. To have an advisor, right, who's got your back at these conferences means so much. Because I remember when I went to Boston with my first team in Korea, a bunch of girls started crying because they felt like Americans spoke too fast. And yeah, these were MUN American kids, so they weren't incorrect. And I just remember thinking, how important these moments were interpersonally. The second thing I'm hearing from you is student advocacy, right? You're saying, look, kids, if this conference sucks, we're not going to force you back. Like you guys are the ones that have the choice. And I'm also hearing from you, Best Delegate, a quick plug for them, right? If Best Delegate, you've taken their courses, I've taken their courses, great way for advisors to level up their knowledge. Am I covering, I think, most points you mentioned? Kind of a concise version, right? So 8 years. And now, BHA is a powerhouse MUN school. And I think, you and those students, right, throughout these years have been a big part of that. Our final question to you, a message from you would be, why take MUN? There's so many other cool curriculars. Why not join robotics club? No, no hate there, but yeah.
Good robotics club too. Um, I don't know, the students that I think I collected in mine were those who really liked to talk about world issues, right? Like BHA didn't have politics as a class. I think they might have it soon or they might have it now. I don't know. But at the time, like if you wanted to talk about anything related to government and like international relations, MUN was your club. And so it really was about catering to that need and giving that a space where if that's what you liked, you could do it.
Yeah,
So
that's a great legacy you've left. Yeah, in the past we have worked together. We've been to foreign countries at separate teams. We competed or joined together, and who knows, in the future, I'm in Saudi Arabia now. You are in Colombia. Who knows where we'll be? But I'm happy MUN has brought us together once again here on this podcast, episode number 5. Thank you so much for being the guest today.
you're welcome. Thank you for having me.